We have never experienced a moment as in the last 3 years. People are afraid to say what they stand for, afraid to say what they are thinking. The suppression of dissident voices has and is well calculated. Move across the mainstream through censorship, disqualification of truth, repeating daily false reports of virus, death, war, climate, and now about a simple fact of biology, gender. At the beginning of 2020, thousands of scientists, doctors, health professionals were silenced. Accounts were and holders of sovereign bodies in many countries were censored. Hundreds of thousands of posts were deleted out from brainwashing, censorship, and condition of all kinds of freedom movements. The neurolinguistic method used by repeating a narrative succeeds in frightening most people into an unspeakable obedience. Now they are using it again. In Portugal, as well in many other countries, access to health, medical treatments, consultation, diagnosis, and surgery have been cancelled. The consequences of these measures are too serious to be ignored here or all over the world. And these consequences will last for several years yet to come. The loss of many lives, and that has a name: genocide. It's very evident that the world is the victim of someone that holds the power and the puppets with no empathy whatsoever for anyone. The imposition of the respective certificates has never been less than an insult to our intelligence and freedom. The pushback the same certificate will deprive us all for the beginning and the principal pillars of sovereignty and freedom. Make no mistake, all of this due to National Socialist left, extreme left, and many others disguised as something else policies, but all in collusion for the implementation of extreme poverty in Europe countries. They are creating the foundation of frightening regimes where values are inverted. The invasion of our lives, the control of our money, impeding the growth of our quality of life is our reality now. The state exists today to destroy, punish, persecute, and expropriate us from everything, even our soul. And suicide increases because of despair. Somewhere, at some point, the values became inverted, and life means nothing to these people. About my country, Portugal, the Portugal people, I'm sorry. I told you I'll start crying. Each time I talk about my country, the Portuguese people are being strangled by taxes and more taxes and terrible decisions to end the opportunity of work and growth. Maternity wards and pediatric wards are closed. Our cities are full of homeless people. Too many lost their houses to banks that double their raise interest too soon with no warrant. I wonder, what are the Portuguese parliamentarians doing here in this house? What they are doing about this and so much more I will have to say. This European formula is not working for us anymore. It is time for the European Union to recognize that we are on the brink, on the end of the European social project. It doesn't exist. What exists now does not represent European people, where they are almost no European at all. That's one other reason, amongst many other reasons, that people, as well this Parliament, must support the European Citizens Initiative in order to become truly a project to safeguard us and not to destroy and exclude us from our homeland and safety. The solution is to work with us and not against us, so this Parliament become our European home again. Finally, we don't ask, we legitimately demand that these rights, the rights of children, must be respected in the first place, and that this whole doctrine of sexualization with a clear path towards the normalization of pedophile ends right now. May this institution emanate with dignity that respect for the innocents and for all families without any distinction of orientation. Family is family, no matter what, as long as they defend and preserve the dignity, respect and safety of a child. I know that because I'm the mother of 5 and grandmother of 7. Children do not belong to the state or any organization whatsoever. Our human rights are inalienable, just like our freedom, and we do not recognize the WHO legitimacy to decide strictly anything about our lives. The World Health Organization aims for countries to surrender their sovereignty. But let me say this very clear. No one has the authority to hand over the sovereignty of a people to a third party without clear information and total consent. And if they do so by changing or overstep our constitution, it will be high treason to homeland. And this is the most important reason for every country, every single person, support, enjoy the European Citizens Initiative. So together we live a legacy of truth, democracy, security, and freedom for the future of humanity. Today, with the strength of this initiative and your strength, your example, the parliamentarians that invite us here and support us through all these years, these 3 years, may the world and Portugal listen to these words and support our initiative. And for my fellow resilience and resistance people in Portugal, I will always end like we always do. People like all of us, we never, never give up. Thank you very much for having me and listening to me. Thank you. Obrigada.
Is among all options the World Health Organization, an organization we should trust? Yet the WHO has no democratic legitimacy, nor are there any independent supervisory boards to effectively monitor the organization's work. And now a legally binding international pandemic treaty, really? I'm the father of 4 children. I have been a lawyer for 28 years now, and I'm involved as an advocate for fundamental rights and democracy with the German Lawyers Association, Lawyers for Enlightenment. And since the last weekend, also a member of the International Association of Lawyers for Human Rights, which we have founded is exactly last weekend in Cologne to unite all critical thinking lawyers worldwide who still care about human rights. With that background, and also with the background that I'm a journalist and also a book author, I have written a book, Corona State, in which I retell the events surrounding Corona from a German perspective and classify them from a legal point of view. With that background, the goals of the treaty scare me. They do not reassure me. Early detection and prevention of pandemics means, I fear, the establishment of a global early warning and surveillance system. Establishing and strengthening the WHO as the coordinating authority for global health issues probably has the practical effect of disempowering national and local health authorities, and this fundamentally contradicts the principle of subsidiarity. Why call for an international regulation when a problem can be solved just as well or even better nationally or locally? Strengthening of international cooperation in areas such as surveillance, warnings and response probably means the establishment of a global surveillance system of citizens by the states, enforced by the WHO. And this amounts to a complete control and foreign domination and measurements, such as restrictions of the freedom to travel, the right of residence, freedom of movement, and all of them would probably be very easy to implement under those circumstances. In my opinion, the worldwide fight against false information would ultimately mean nothing other than the introduction of censorship at the discretion of the World Health Organization. All four goals would lead to a global surveillance and paternalism system of the World Health Organization. In the past corona pandemic, for example, the WHO showed through a global failure that it was at no time able to assess the situation correctly. The transfer of power to an anonymous, non-democratically legitimized organization with mafia-like structures, which is supplied from dubious sources of money and is close to the pharmaceutical lobby, to put it mildly, and which in future is to determine uncontrollably when a pandemic has broken out, when it is over, and how people worldwide are then to behave, is to be decisively rejected. The whole thing is made even more dramatic by the fact that governments, like the German government, are now linking the pandemic treaty issue with the second issue, climate change. Those who argue in this way obviously want the World Health Organization to be able to declare health crisis at its discretion and send people into further lockdowns or other measures as needed. But I do not want an anonymous world organization to decide for me, and certainly not for my children. I don't want anyone like those organizations to decide in future how to behave, how I have to behave in a crisis that may once again not be a real one, but only a man-made one. Jurists like me reject ideologies and totalitarian movements with a claim to absoluteness. I reject that an abstract construct of a public health is declared the global goal for all, whereas personal health has to take a backseat. Decisions on how to deal with health and illness must always be made by the individual and must not be shifted to the international level and an opaque network of organizations and responsibilities. I reject the idea that in the future not only actual diseases but a mix of data analysis, computer models, artificial intelligence and test results should justify risk assessment at the discretion of the World Health Organization. If the treaty plans outlined were to be realized, decisions on how a society should deal with diseases, prevention and epidemics, and that could be any wave of influenza, would be removed from the democratic process in many ways. The leverage of an impending public climate or public health emergency can be used without any barrier to monitor and control populations. According to this logic, the monitoring must take place permanently, because otherwise, according to this logic, it is not possible to recognize at an early stage when a state of emergency is imminent. I reject this. I also reject the fact that every person is considered a potential danger as long as she or he has not proven his harmlessness. None of this describes the world I want to live in. It's not the picture of a world I want to pass on to my children. Therefore, it's a clear no to a totalitarian world government engineered by WHO. Thank you.
We warmly invite people from all over Europe and from throughout the world to come to our Europe for Trust and Freedom rally to the city of Vienna in Austria on October 1st, 2023.